Hi, I'm Dr. Evan Matthews. I'm here at Montclair State University in the Exercise Science Lab to show you how to use a near-infrared spectroscopy sensor. So NIRS is the short version of that sort of long sentence there. And what this does, so it sends light into the tissue. Specifically, we're talking mostly about muscle here. It sends light into the muscle. Some of that light gets refracted and sent back into a sensor on this same unit. And then from that, it's able to estimate how much oxygen is in the muscle at that location. So it's kind of similar to if you've ever used a pulse oximeter. This is something that would typically be placed on the finger like that. So it's very similar to a pulse oximeter, except for it's a little bit more powerful, and it's able to go deeper into the tissue and to sense what's happening in the muscle itself. All right, so setting up these NIRS sensors, and this is from the Moxy company, so this is going to be specific to Moxy's NIRS sensors, are fairly simple. There's a little micro USB on the bottom of the sensor that needs to be plugged into a micro USB cords, very similar to if you have like an Android cell phone. And then the other side of this cord is simply plugged using a USB port into the computer. All right, so once that's like that, we're going to go into the computer. We're going to click on this Moxy PC software, and that's going to bring up the Moxy software for initializing the unit and getting it set up. So first thing we have to do is come down and hit connect, and that's going to force the computer to look for the sensor and hopefully find the sensor. So it did find the sensor here, and so there's a couple things we need to look at right now. So one is that the battery life on this is low. So these sensors do tend to die whenever they're not being used, so they don't hold a charge very well. Now I will say that it doesn't take a lot of charge to be able to use it, so it being low, it's probably still going to be okay for the short period of time that I'm going to be using it. So maybe less than an hour or so, you're probably okay with a low charge. But if you're going to be using this for extended periods of time, you're going to want to have a higher charge, and you're probably going to want to have these sensors charging sort of all the time and just ready for use. So it does come with a little charging dock, so you can plug in up to 4 sensors at a time, and you just have it charging all the time. So when you need it, you pull the sensor off and you go and use it. So I didn't have this charging, so it is a little low. So the other thing though that you need to look at here is the time that's on the sensor. All right, so notice that the sensor says it's 1969 instead of 2017. That's because the sensor died since the last time it was connected to the computer. So in order to fix that, we're going to go and we're going to hit set, and it's going to set the time on the sensor equal to the time of the computer. So you want to make sure that you're going to set this sensor up on the computer that you're going to eventually download the data onto, so that it is sort of synced in time. All right, so you can always refresh this. So let's say a little bit of time has gone by since I've been talking. If I hit refresh, you're going to see that the time here changes, and that the two are in sync with each other. So the unit is synced to the time on the computer itself. All right, so now that we have both of those done, I like to start with a sensor that has no data on it. So sort of best practices would be to clear the sensor when you're done using it. But just in case somebody did not do that, I'm going to come down here and hit clear. And it's going to be giving me a warning. Whether there's data on there or not, it's always going to give you this warning that if you clear the sensor, the data is gone. You can't get it back, essentially. So I'm going to hit yes. There are some different sort of modes here that you can choose. The mode that's the default is to collect a data point every 2 seconds and to collect a smooth version of that data. So whether you have the smoothing on or off, it's going to give you the raw data and the smooth data, so you might as well have them both on. So I'm just going to leave it on this default of 2 seconds of update and data smoothing, and now I'm going to go ahead and hit this save and exit. All right, so once you do that, you can unplug the sensor and go ahead and use it. All right, so this is the close-up of the Moxy NIRS sensor. So in order to turn this on, you simply hold this power button here until you see, I'll do it from the top so you can see the lights. So once you see the lights start to flash, there you go. That means that it is turned on, and you can also check by turning it around and making sure you see a blinking red light there. All right, so what you're going to do then is take this and you're going to plug, or you're going to wrap it around whatever body part, so that if you look here, there's this sort of curve to it. You want that curve to be fit onto the muscle that you're trying to actually get the muscle oxygen from. Alright, so what I'm going to be doing today, just for demonstration purposes, is I'm going to be attaching this NIRS sensor onto my quadricep, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of leg cycling. So typically what I use if I'm going to be doing something where there's a lot of movement is I take the sensor, I put it on so that the curve of the sensor fits the curve of the muscle, and then I take an ACE bandage like this and I just kind of wrap it around tight enough to keep it in place, but not tight enough to actually cut off any blood supply. And then to make sure that the ACE bandage doesn't fall off, I just take a little athletic tape and wrap it around that ACE bandage a few times. Alright, so when you're using a NIRS system or the Moxy NIRS system, you can just attach the sensor, do whatever test you're going to do, and then later on download that data, and that be all you do. But you can also visualize that data as it's actually being collected, and to do that you have to plug in one of these little tiny USB ANT Plus. Alright, so now that I have the sensor on and it's turned on and it's physically strapped to my body, I'm going to go into the software that the Moxy company recommends for visualizing the NIRS data as it's being collected. Again, you don't necessarily have to do this step. You can just do your protocol and then check your data at the end. Sometimes you might lose data by doing that, by not having something set up appropriately or not having a quality signal. But if you do this, if you choose to visualize it, what you're going to do is you're going to come into the computer and click on PeriPedal right here. Alright, so once the PeriPedal software comes up, first thing we need to do is pair the sensors that are attached. So we have up to 3 sensors that we can attach here at Montclair State. You can buy additional sensors to show even more than 3, but right now we're just going to do 1 sensor because that's all I have turned on and set up. But I'm going to go into Edit Profiles. And so you can see here we have 3 different users. We have a user 1102, 1103, and 1104. And so we did that because we have 3 different sensors. So if you look at the label on each of our sensors, you're going to see one is 1102, 1103, and 1104. And so whichever sensor that you're using is the user that you should select. So I'm currently wearing sensor 1102, so I'm going to stay in user 1102, and then I'm going to scroll down here. And so to be sure that I have the sensor paired appropriately, even though it says that 1102 is paired, I'm going to unpair it. And then I'm going to, so you can see here now it says no sensor paired. Now I'm going to hit search. And it's going to start searching for sensors nearby that are turned on. And so you can see here it says device ID 1102, which again is the one I'm wearing. You can see the SMO2, which is the percentage of muscle oxygen saturation is at around 64–65%, so that's a fairly decent number, so it should be attached appropriately. If you're getting numbers well below 50, you probably have an issue. If you're getting zeros, obviously you have an issue. Or if you're getting sort of erratic numbers, so if you're getting 20s mixed with 90s and back and forth really quickly, and you're not doing anything to cause that, there's probably an issue as well. So as long as the numbers are pretty stable like these are here, then you probably have the sensor on correctly and you're ready to go. You can also see here the total hemoglobin that's being estimated by the sensor. But I'm going to go ahead and hit pair. And that's going to make it so that this sensor is hooked up to the software and should display whenever we turn on a workout within the software. All right, so now the last thing we have to do is to get out of this edit profile is hit the save profile to make sure that it keeps whatever we changed, and then go back and hit this arrow to go back to the main menu. All right, so there's all kinds of things you can change in here, some different settings, and you can create workouts. For the purposes of today, we're just going to keep this simple. We're going to go into Start Workout, and we're going to say there's only one user, so we only have one sort of line of data, one channel being displayed, and that user is going to be user 1102. And I'm going to go down to, if you go to the bottom of all these are different workouts that are pre-programmed within the PeriPedal software. I'm going to use the unstructured 30-minute workout. So I'm going to double click on that. And that's going to bring you into the workout screen. All right, so what I did here is I turned the workout on, so I just hit the play button. And so you can see here now we have a pause button. So at the beginning there was a play button there. So I just clicked that. I waited a couple minutes here, or a few minutes, and I did walk around a little bit, so there's a little bit of noise to the data. But for the most part, I was resting. You can see my muscle oxygen is at around 70%. So I'm going to start doing some pedaling here. All right, so I'm at 1 kp resistance right now. I'm pedaling. It's not doing a whole lot to my muscle oxygen, mostly because it's just a very light workload for me. I'm going to go ahead and increase this to about 4, and you're going to see a pretty dramatic decrease in my muscle oxygen levels. All right, so there it goes. You can see it dropping. Usually when you feel it start to, or when you see it start to drop, you start feeling the workout. So I'm getting a little out of breath. My legs are burning a little bit, and you can clearly see the muscle oxygen level is dropping quite a bit and fast. So I'm well into the 30% range now. It's probably going to keep going down a little bit because it's pretty tough. I'm going to make this a little easier now. And you're going to see that muscle oxygen start to come up again. All right, so I've made it 1 kp from 4 kp. A lot easier. Still a little out of breath, but give it a minute here. You're going to see that muscle oxygen start to come way back up. There it is. You can see it marching up now. We're already into the 40s. Now we're in the 50s. And we're back into the 60s. Where if you remember, we were in the sort of mid 60s to low 70s when we started. So it's probably going to plateau right now in the 60s. So very responsive. I'm going to stop pedaling now so I can talk to you. So very responsive, really easy to use, very nice for demonstrating oxygen need of the muscle. This can also be used for occlusion trials. So if I were to strap one of these onto my forearm and use like a blood pressure cuff to cut off blood supply to my lower arm, you would see the muscle oxygen plummet as well. It'd be a little slower if you're not doing exercise, but if you are doing exercise with the forearm, you would see those numbers drop really, really fast. So then when you would release that cuff, they would bounce up really quick, like what we saw with the quadricep here. All right, so I was a little out of breath, so I just went ahead and paused the workout because I think we got to see what we need to see. Just quickly looking at this screen though, the green y-axis scale here is the muscle oxygen. You can see that the colors are the same, and so here's the muscle oxygen. It's this green line. You can see it went way down when I was working at 4 kps of resistance, and then it came way back up when I was working at around 1 kp resistance. And it also had a little bit of super compensation that happened when I stopped altogether. So this straight line that went up after I stopped exercising right around here, that is just sort of a post-exercise increase in blood flow that sometimes happens. This sort of brownish red color, this maroon color here, is the hemoglobin. You can see changes in total hemoglobin that is underneath the sensor. What we can do here is we can export this data, so we can save it first. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this back button, and it's going to prompt me to save the workout. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save and end workout. And then what we can do is we can go into the view history icon, and we can see that workout that we just saved. So here it is. Here's the data being displayed. We can save this externally, so we can save it as a text file and then get it into Excel that way, or we can print it or do whatever it is you want to do with that data. All right, so I've removed the sensor from my leg. The ACE bandage that I was wearing is going to get washed in just a standard laundry machine, and the sensor side of the device has been quickly cleaned with an alcohol swab. So you just want to make sure that you wipe down everything that was sweaty and that was in direct contact with the skin, avoiding wiping the area where the micro USB plug goes into, just to make sure that you don't mess with any of the wiring or the electrical activity of the device. So now I'm going to go ahead and plug this back into the computer to download the data through the Moxy software. All right, so I'm plugging in the micro USB, and I already have the other end of this cord plugged in through USB to the computer. All right, so we're going to go ahead and go back and reopen this Moxy PC software and click connect again. And so it's going to be very similar to what we did to set it up with this step of obviously downloading the data. So if you see here, battery is still low, so I had it on for probably a good 30 or 40 minutes, and the battery is still in the same sort of low classification. So it does last a long time. It's just it dies whenever you just let it sit on a table. All right, so the times are still correct. We're going to go in here and we're going to click download the data. And I'll just put it right on the desktop for now. And I'll put it as test bike data. Okay. And so I'm going to hit save. And it takes a minute to download it. Not quite a minute, but it takes a few seconds to download it, so that's what it's doing now. All right, the prompt that it was saving is now gone, so it's finished saving. Probably took 20, maybe 25 seconds, so it is pretty quick. I'm going to minimize this for now, and I'm going to go on to the desktop where I saved the data, and you can see these two different files pop up, and this other one with the little A here. All right, so here's the data. All right, so we have the month and the day. So this is just when it was collected. So today is August 28th. We have the hour, minute, in seconds of the collections. And so I had it on, the unit was turned on for a fairly long period of time, probably about an hour. So some of that might have real data, some of that might not. We have I'm going to expand these. So we have the SMO2 live, so the percentage of oxygen, so the muscle oxygen percentage, and this is sort of the raw data that hasn't been filtered or smoothed in any way. We have the SMO2 average. This is the smooth, so this is the smooth data. We have the total hemoglobin, and these other two here are just some random things that we don't need to worry about. All right, so the ones we're going to worry the most about are the time, the raw data, the smooth data, and then the total hemoglobin. All right, so from the total hemoglobin and whichever one of these you choose to use, whether it's the raw or the smooth data, you can then calculate oxyhemoglobin and deoxyhemoglobin. But we're just going to show here real quick, I'll do a graph of the SMO2 data. I'll do the average data so you can see that. So let me just highlight all this and make a real quick graph. All right, so here is our graph. So you can see some weird sort of garbage stuff when I wasn't wearing the device when I first turned it on. Once I turned it on and had the device actually on me, it's a little more stable. When I started to do a little bit of walking around, it moved around a little bit. When I was pedaling at a light intensity, it stayed fairly stable. This is when I ramped up the intensity to 4 kps or 4 kilograms of resistance. And you can see this sharp drop in the muscle oxygen saturation. When I stopped pedaling at 4 kp and lowered the resistance back down to around 1 kp, you can see this quick increase in the oxygen saturation. When I stopped pedaling altogether and just kind of stood still, you can see a little overshoot of the reoxygenation, And then this is all just kind of garbage data up here when I was walking around trying to sort of figure out things and set up the camera and all that. So that's garbage data. But you can see here pretty clearly this, this period of time when I was cycling hard, the muscle oxygenation dropped. All right, so with this, you can do all kinds of analysis. I won't go over that in this video, but you can do lots of different things with this data. All right, so I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below and I'll try to answer those. Otherwise, come back and watch another video, and thanks for watching this one.